So here we are looking at the Yes Typo under the pretty lights, and it's a board I've ridden year over year, and for the 2018 model it's a little stiffer than past models since they moved to out of GST over to SWS, which made a softer board for them, which was nice because boards started feeling more like they were described, where before they were much stiffer. But this year they kind of bumped it up just a little bit to where now it feels like a medium flex, where before it felt kind of medium soft, just a touch stiffer than the basic. And they both feel a little stiffer this year. They just made it seems like, wood's different board for board, but with the models I've flexed in shops and stuff like that, and the board that I have right now, this 158, it's a little stiffer than past year's models, and it's a little more fun to ride. It feels more like a true all mountain freestyle board. It's kind of right in that border between. It's got a little setback, a 0.5 mil. It's kind of a directional twin board, kind of almost a true twin. But it's super fun to ride on the mountain, and it's one of those boards I love recommending for those people who see a lot of hard snow but still want something that's competent in powder, and it's forgiving. It tracks really well. A lot of hybrid rocker boards that don't have camber between the feet like this, and you can see it's got a good bit of camber here. And a mellow rocker and a nice blunt tip and tail that kind of has a nice low rise, not too kinked, and it's got good float, and it's very forgiving and catch free, but it doesn't do this when you're 1-footing off the chair. It tracks fine, and then if you're going down a long flat cat track, it doesn't do that either. It holds really well, and it has a really consistent personality in almost all conditions. So from hard snow to powder, you kind of always know what you're getting into, and it's got decent pop while still being forgiving, and it's very fun. It's kind of, it never really wins the beauty award. Especially my friends who are really into aesthetics, they always find this to be a little off, and but for me, boards become beautiful when you ride them. It's like at one time in my life I was into blondes, then brunette rocked my world, and then all of a sudden brunettes are cool. This is like brunette to me. Amazing board. It's just got for the price point and for riding in harder conditions, it grips really well. It's not quite there with like full-on mag like you see from Mervin, but it's a little better than maybe, let's say, the Mellow Mag. I feel like it has a little more bite than the Mellow Mag of, let's say, a Jones Mountain Twin, or the Mellow, the 0.5 mag of, let's say, Mervin, Libtech GNU. So I feel like it's kind of in between that Mellow Mag of Jones and that really aggressive magna traction, that really wavy, crinkle cut French fry kind of magna traction you see with, let's say, boards like the Terrain Wrecker, which is another good board for riding in hard snow and powder like this. They just each have different personalities, but the Terrain Wrecker is a little more loose, a little more playful. This feels a little more stable, but the Terrain Wrecker might have a little more pop, but this just has that more consistent personality in all conditions. So, it kind of goes back and forth. But anyways, it's like the Terrain Wrecker will have maybe a little more grip, but this will have a little more stability. So they're both really fun in all conditions and do a pretty good job, and they don't grab too hard in the snow. Now you can see this underbite right here, I hope. It just kind of goes along, and then there's an indention in the side cut and another indention, and it's right by the bindings. So it's kind of placed really well between the feet. It can be a little touch catchy, but not enough to really be a problem, and it really still grips better and provides a more stable, forgiving ride than it does catchy. It's nothing like camber, but it might just be a touch more catchy than, let's say, the Yes Libre. So let's get into setback on board. This is a 158. Like, I'd ride a Jones Mountain Twin in a 57, and like a Terrain Wrecker in a 57. and a lot of boards in a 56 or 57. So it's a little longer, and so you get a little more length and a little more rocker. But let's talk about setback on board. Another disappointment for the Typo for me is there's only 5x2 inserts per binding. 2, 4, 5. Most have 6. If this had just another 2 right here, that would be great, because then you get a lot more setback on board. And you can kind of see the setback on board using a regular disc. You're looking at 20.5. Oh, and you're looking at 22.5 if you go all the way back, which is great for me. That's like kind of one of my favorite stance widths these days. And then you're looking at 18.5. So 20.5 and 18.5 is just 2. And that's kind of like a lot of mountain freestyle twins you can get into. Now, if you use a mini disc, you can get a little further back. I think you can get to like 2 3/4, which is a little better. If they just had an extra insert, it would kind of be in that magic realm of like just about 22, almost 22, just like 3/4. It would be an extra 3/4 of an inch back. And then you're kind of looking at, you're looking at 2.75, and then with mini discs, you're looking at like, 3.25, 3.5. So, or setting up like I could set Union Atlas bindings up, or now bindings up like they were mini disc bindings, and get this even further back and get a little more setback on board. But I just wish there was a little more setback on board. It would make it kind of like an amazing board. But as it stands now, it's really great for those like mountain freestyle riders who just want a little more setback on board than the Yes Basic, and primarily riding hard snow, but want something competent in powder. And there you have it. It's a highly recommendable board. When you compare it to, let's say, the Yes Standard, which a lot of people really like, I would say, the biggest problem with the Yes Standard is you can't use mini discs like you can with this. You have to have a stance width that matches the slambacks, and their reference stance is a little narrow. So if that works for you, that's fine. And they both have great grip, but also the Standard comes in kind of like basically the new regular, but more of a mid-wide in the traditional sense. Where this comes in all sizes and matches all kinds of feet. Like this works really well with like size 9 to 10s, this 58, and I'm a size 9, and it works really well for me and turns really quick and feels really good, doesn't have any toe heel drag for me, and it can go up to wider, and then you can get all the way up into mid-wide, and there's kind of a size that kind of matches most boot sizes with the Typo. It really has a wide spectrum of sizing, and so that combination makes this kind of a more recommendable board, even though, God, that Standard looks so beautiful. God, I love that. I just love that design compared to this. And then you got, your yellow base, kind of yellow and black, kind of hard to repair, but and you got a little day glow highlights, and that's not really my thing. But again, it's beautiful when you're on it. It's just a wonderful thing, once you're on her, she's great. And that's the Yes Typo. It's a super fun ride, and really recommendable for those who see hard snow and want that stability across the spectrum of conditions that you see from powder to ice.